So 10 minutes to tell you why you're going to love The Road to Grandeur. The book opens with a 14-year-old girl running across rooftop to rooftop, and 3 people are trying to kill her, and she doesn't know why. Now, I could tell you the story of the book, but what I'm going to tell you is what happens before the book starts. So, it is young adult fantasy. It's a different world, different rules. There's magic, there's mystery, there's fantasy. It's not the Earth, different world. In this world, there were 4 kingdoms, okay? Now, I'm going to tell you what happens before this book starts. 1,000 years ago, a full millennia ago, before the book starts, there were 4 countries, and these countries were continuously at war. People were dying, they were fighting, and they tried to put a stop to it, and each tried to get the upper hand, and nothing happened. More death, more dying. And the leaders said, we have to put a stop to this, and they tried peace accords. Nothing worked. So they were at their wits' end, and they said, we've got to end this. How do we end this? And the leaders of the 4 countries got together, and they said, what can we do? How can we stop this? This was 1,000 years ago. And they said, this is beyond us. So what they decided to do was they were going to cast a magic spell. The purpose of this spell was to find people, a total of 5 people, 1 person from each of the 4 kingdoms, and a 5th one to be a tiebreaker. These people were going to be picked out based on ethics, based on morality. These would be good people. That's the purpose of the spell, to pick out these 5 people who will be better than your normal person. Now, the spell would also pick them out to be magically gifted people as well. But the main thing is, these are good people. And the rulers of these countries said, these people are going to be above kings, above queens. They're going to be above all of them, and whatever they say, we go with. Do we all agree? They all agreed. So they got their strongest wizards and witches and spellcasters from all the countries together, and they cast this spell. And the spell was cast, and it went out. Now, it didn't happen overnight. It took some time to get the 5 chosen, because that is the purpose of the spell, 1 from each country, all together. But finally, they got all 5 of them together, and they said, you are the chosen. Whatever you say goes. Now, these are ethically good people, so they said, okay, we'll give it a try. So they started going into the different kingdoms, and they'd go into one kingdom and they'd start settling disputes there, and they'd go into another area and they'd put out some fires there, and they started making peace accords and saying, you can't do this, you can do this, and it didn't happen overnight. But very slowly, the wars started dying down, and it actually worked. People started living in peace and harmony. And this was 1,000 years before our story starts. So now, the spell was a giant spell, and occasionally one of the chosen would die, but the spell was still in effect. So whenever one of the chosen died, they would feel the pull towards wherever the next chosen was from whatever country that person died, and they'd get the 5 together again. This was 1,000 years ago. Fast forward 200 years before the story starts. 200 years before the story starts, King Zolf, a leader of one of the countries, started waging war against the country to the north. And this war started getting bigger, and the chosen were like, we don't need to intervene. There's going to be squabbles. There's going to be disputes. But the war started getting bigger, and the war started getting bigger, and people started dying, and more people started dying. And the chosen, of course, had to respond. And they went in, and they confronted King Zolf, and they're like, we get it. We know there's going to be wars. There's going to be problems. People are going to die. We understand that, but this is out of control. We're the chosen. That's the rules. You got to put an end to it. And King Zolf, for the first time in 800 years after this long golden age, said, skip you, get out of here. And the chosen were like, well, no, you can't say that. We're the chosen. That's the rule. You have to do what we say. He said, get out of here. But we're the chosen. So they said, okay, well, that's new. So the chosen decided, we got to stop this guy. He's out of control. So they started going from country to country and saying, all right, we get it. We've had this great long golden age. Things have been great, but this guy's out of control. This guy's killing everybody, and we got to stop him. And they went to the other leaders and they were like, we've had this golden age for forever. We don't really need to go to war. We don't need war. No, we don't need to go to war. So everywhere they went, they were refused. And they were confused. We're the chosen. You have to do. This is how this works because you have to do what we say. But time and time again, the chosen were refused. Now, like I said before, the chosen are magically gifted people in their own right. Yes, they're morally good. They're ethically good people, but they're also magically gifted. And they said, all right, if nobody's going to help us, we can do it ourselves. So the 5 chosen got themselves together, and they went and they confronted King Zulf and got right in his face and said, you're going to put an end to this. And King Zulf killed them all, wiped them out. All the chosen were dead. Now, King Zulf then decided what he would do is he would get his fortune divined. And he went to a soothsayer, and this soothsayer said, to be honest, you're pretty much unstoppable right now. Nobody can ever put a stop to you unless the chosen get together. Because even though he killed all of them, the spell was still in effect. Out there somewhere were the next 5 chosen. But they weren't the 5 chosen until they got back together. King Zulf, being an intelligent but morally corrupt man, said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. And he created an army of assassins. And these people just went into all the other countries, and nobody really saw them. But when in one of these countries, if somebody had a little bit more potential or a little bit too much magical ability, these people just seemed to disappear, never to be seen from again. This was 200 years before the story starts. So when our story starts, it's been 200 years of the war. The war that at that time was big has blossomed to out of control proportions. People are dying by the score every day. And King Zulf from 200 years ago is still around. How is he still alive? Well, we don't know just yet. And the chosen, nobody knows who these chosen are. Nobody's heard of them for 200 years because they haven't ever gotten back together again. So, our story starts with a 14-year-old girl running rooftop to rooftop with 3 people trying to kill her. And she just doesn't know why. The Road to Grandeur. Hope you love it.